Hey there, hey, it is Michelle with Brilliant Quest, and today we're going to be talking about something that you may not have heard of, but if you have, it's okay. I got some new stuff for you. We're going to be talking about the rise of the completionist. And this is going to help you to be able to thrive while you're surviving. So come on in, let's get started. Now, the way we like to do this here is I'm going to give you my top highlights, and then we're going to go through each one of them. So, a completionist. A completionist is a closer, a finisher. The hired gun, if you will. It is the final boss. It's the pinch hitter. Yeah, that's the completionist. A lot of people are getting lost in the mix, lost in the sauce. They're petering out. They can't continue to go on. We have some of the highest rates of mental health issues that we've seen since war times. And so it's getting something out there. And so to benefit yourself and others, because, it's not just about just us, you want to emulate, if not become a completionist. Okay. All right. So let's get started. So with completionists, they have this uncanny ability to tighten the slack in a process, in a team, in a situation. They're really good at being able to tighten things up so they become effective and efficient. The next thing is with the way a completionist works is they're able to become highly proficient at how they think. That is one of the biggest things. You would think that it would be their processes and their systems. And yeah, but the top thing about becoming a completionist is how you think and how you think about your thinking. And then the next thing about a completionist is able to actually use uncertainty to increase their productivity. Yeah, that's the power of a completionist. All right, so let's get into these and give you some insights. Okay, so the completionist, with tightening up slack to become proficient, what they do is they are highly experienced in finding weaknesses, and they are able to take these weaknesses, rehab them, and they focus, or one of their focuses is on increasing the pace and the intensity of what it is that needs to be completed. All right. So what does this look like? It looks like what they're able to do is they're able to identify any lingering potentiality of something, and they are able to convert the potential into a successful outcome. That bears repeating. A completionist, like I said before, tightening up the slack in something. They're first and foremost able to suss out, identify weaknesses in the process, in the system. Then they're able to amp up the pace and the intensity to get to the point of completion. Now, in order to do this, they have an inherent ability that they have worked on, because a lot of times you're not just born with this, but they have an inherent ability to see not only the potential, but to convert and process that potential into a useful outcome. Think about when you're looking for a mate, and think about how frustrating it is when you see all the potential in a mate, but it never manifests. Well, it might be that you need to use some completionist skills to help cultivate that potential into a useful and desired outcome. Can you see how powerful that is? Do you see why, just with that there is a rise in the demand for completionists? Because they not only finish stuff, but what they're also able to do is they're also able to bring stuff out to make the whole thing more efficient, more effective, by not just exploiting potentiality, but like I said, converting it, upscaling it, if you will. All right. So now, how do you become a completionist? Well, I talked about it. They have this ability to think, and thinking is not as hard as people would think. One of the biggest things, or the shortcuts you can use to better your thinking, is to not only spend time thinking, but to write down your thoughts. When you start writing down your thoughts, I'm not talking about grammar, syntax, editing, but when you start writing down your thoughts, go back and read them. And the areas that are fuzzy, the areas where you have a lack of knowledge, where there's confusion, where it is not well thought out, they have no place to hide when you write. A lot of people think, oh, well, I didn't go here and I don't have that education or whatever. But I'm going to tell you, when you start writing down your thoughts and you really want to see what you think about something, don't use any chat AIs or any of that stuff. You hopefully take pen and paper with your hand, write it down, and keep writing until you have exhausted what you think about it or what you know about it. And what you're going to do is, y'all, I didn't have my microphone on, so I hope y'all can hear all of that. But anyway, I'm putting my microphone on now. So if you hear the scratching, apologies. Okay. So but what I was saying is that with how to think as a completionist, writing down stuff and then evaluating where you are clearly lacking in a process is going to then turn around and help you to strategically go where you're not wasting a lot of time to fill in the blanks of knowledge, the gaps in knowledge. If you're writing down how to bake a cake and you write down, I think it needs to be, now I'm in the US, so I use Fahrenheit, y'all. Don't judge me. I think that a cake needs to be baked anywhere from 325 to 350. I know that a cake can usually have sugar, butter, eggs, maybe milk, flour, some a little salt, some seasonings, and some kind of way to rise it, baking powder, baking soda. I think that it probably needs to cook anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the type of cake. These types of things. This is the kind of stuff you're writing out. When you go back and you look, it's going to be obvious that you don't know what the ratios are for ingredients, that you're not really sure about how long or at what temperature to bake it. You haven't decided on what type of cake or the size and shape of the pan. Do you see how just by doing that quick little thing, you were able to pinpoint so much about what you think, what you know, and what you need to know? And that's what a completionist does. They're not necessarily trying to jump in and start creating a process and a program before they go and do their thinking on the matter. I'm putting you on game here. These are some of the things and skills that people pay a lot of money to get, because a completionist understands how to shore up the weaknesses, because they do it with themselves first and foremost by going through these processes. And so what you want to do is you want to really get used to taking it to the paper, taking it to the pen, so that you can get proficient in how you think about something. You can get proficient in understanding where you need to shore it up. And a completionist is really good about self-learning and self-curriculum for teaching, because a completionist is not just about, I do this thing this way. Like I said before, it's not necessarily about what they feel like doing and that they do it just one kind of way. No, it is about training themselves to learn how to approach new things. A completionist can come in to something that they've never done before, but because they do these types of things, they know how to think, they know how to expose to themselves the areas where they are weak. Remember, I told you they're really good about discovering the weaknesses in the process. It's because they start with themselves first. And then not only that, by doing this, they make it very clear where they lack understanding and where the process that they're trying to work with lacks a clear-cut understanding of its goal, its potential. And because of that, to become a great completionist, when you have learned how to look at how you think about stuff, you will then amp up your habit of doing this, which produces, doing this kind of stuff produces a high ability to create, dismantle, evaluate projects. And when you look at a completionist, they can take a project, they can create one, they can plan one, they can manage one, and they can execute on one. That is why you have this rise of completionists. That's why they're the pinch hitters, if you will, of life. They come in and they do what others can't or won't, because they are so well-rounded, but it starts with their thinking process. I know you thought I was going to tell you, oh, you got to go do this and that. Case in point, there is this sub-niche of data, and it's data scientists, and then it goes down to data interpreters. So the scientists are the ones that do all of the generating of the information, and they can interpret the data and everything. But now in today's world, because of the proliferation of so much information through AI and the advancement of large language models and other models that can do a lot, you now have this need for these completionists who proof what AI is producing, and they check the data. Well, I have seen these high, expensive programs to teach you how to become a data scientist and all of this. But you can just do a Google search to look for people who became data interpreters, scientists, without doing that. And one of the things that there was this one young lady in particular who is really good at it. And what you would have thought she would have said, oh, I learned how to code, I learned how to do this or do that. No, what she did is she learned how she thinks about stuff. And then she used some of the things that I just mentioned here by going in and building up the areas where she found herself lacking for what she thought would be needed to do this. Like her in specific, she said that she learned that she did not really know the interactions between data. Like, and I'm putting this in, she didn't say this, but when I had to do financial analysis, I had to go through the same process. I had to understand what historical data was. I had to understand how to interpolate historical data to forecast. I had to go in and look at the in the relationships between year over year, month over month, comparisons. I had to look at trending. I had trending analysis, future casting, all of those different things, and it meant that I had to go in and understand the relationship so that I wouldn't get or make up rules that would give garbage data out. And like I said before, it's not about the specifics of it. It's about understanding how to think about something. And then this young lady also talked about shoring up the project. Well, that was another thing I had to learn. One of the biggest things that I realized was it's not about the data. It's about the people who generate, manage, or supply the data. And so as a quote unquote completionist, if you will, meaning that you're coming in and you're finishing the project and giving them something useful, I had to learn that first and foremost, before I start pulling data out of a database, I'm talking about me now, pulling stuff out of a database, I had to go and interview the people who generated it, who managed it, who led it. And that meant that I'd have to go do these analytical interviews for them to tell me what meant what. Because just because you get someone's data and you look at the headings and the topics, that does not, just because they say something with this word, it might not mean what you think it means. Just really breaking down the process. And that's what she ended up saying, was that her project skills became very important for her to be able to do this, because it wasn't just being locked away, looking at raw data, crunching it down like people think. It was more so understanding and being able to have a totality of the picture, or at least the main points of the picture, so that you could give relevant interpretation of the data. Now, like I said, that's one example, but I'm not saying, I'm talking about you being a data scientist, analyst, or whatever. I'm talking about you being able to go and deal with the areas in your life that have been overwhelming or too complicated for so long. How to turn yourself into a completionist where you're able to get it done. All right. So, like I said, write down your thoughts. Look for the areas that are blaring, where there's a lack of understanding, confusion, it's not well developed or thought out. And by writing it down, you will know. You will know exactly where you need to go to shore up this information. Remember the example about the cake? Yeah, you want to do that. All right. So then, here is a big one. And I would have never understood this principle if I wasn't thrust into it. So have you ever had it where there's something that you need to take care of and you need to do? You don't know how to do it. You don't know where to start. And when you do try to get someone else to do it, you can't afford to pay the requested compensation, which they deserve, but you just can't afford to pay for it. What do? Do you have a temper tantrum and say, I can't do this, and go hide in the corner? Or do you be like, I gotta do something? All right. And so one of the biggest, if you are a real completionist, one of the biggest boons to your characteristics are that you use uncertainty to propel and increase your productivity. What do you mean uncertainty to produce more productivity? Well, for one, it's where you start blind. A lot of people don't start because they can't see the way. And it takes a bit of faith, if you will, to make the first step. You don't know what direction, but a completionist is hell-bent on getting forward momentum, even if they have to backtrack and try a different direction, as opposed to the person who's sitting in the middle with all the different doors crying, talking about somebody show me the way. And you might not think that you do that, but when's the last time you felt overwhelmed by something that was completely out of, how do I do that? And so you took no action. Or the first thing was you tried to outsource it, and when it came back with it's too expensive, you just gave up. Completionists don't let that stop them. So they do it blind. And what they do is they keep going until they smash into the truth and or find a solution. And that means that they reverse engineer as they go. It's kind of like document as you go. Once you figure out something, write down the process of what it took for you to get there so that you don't have to keep relearning it. Completionists build on their experiences so that they get less and less apprehensive about going into the unknown, because they start to build wins that know, if I keep going, if I keep moving, if I seek, I will find, if I ask, I will receive. All right. So when they are using uncertainty, going and starting is one thing, but as you're going and you're reverse engineering, what you're looking for is the beginning. How should this be started? And that's freeing, because doing something with the unknown removes your need to start at the beginning. It allows you to start in the middle, the end, or whatever, so that you can figure out the beginning, so that the next time you do it, or when you have to teach somebody else to do it, you can tell them truly what is the beginning, instead of trying to start there and removing that hindrance that says, I don't know enough, I don't know how to start. Just do something. Don't start, do. All right. And then, now this is one that I have had to appreciate and learn because I was mistaking it for pain when it was a gift. And that is when you are using the uncertainty to be productive, appreciate that you have fresh eyes to see new possibilities. Who says you have to do something just like everyone else? It is the novelty of the novice doing something in a way that the proficient never thought about that helps to move evolution and ingenuity. So there was this group. Well, each year there are competitions where universities compete to do some kind of project. And a few years ago, here in Georgia, at Georgia Tech, they had a team that decided to build a new automobile. And they did not know anything about automobiles except for they get in them and they run. And by appreciating and using the fresh eyes approach, they were able to bring innovative ways of doing stuff that had been hidden from the pros in the car industry, so that they won. Of course, they won the prize, and it helped to drive forward some new things about cars that people had just taken for granted. Was do it this way, not that way. And so that's one of the things that I really like about the uncertainty approach. First and foremost, you don't have to know how to start, you just do. The next one is you get to see with fresh eyes new possibilities and new ways of doing things. And then you want to experiment instead of create and execute. This one is so freeing. When you know that you're taking action for the sake of trying something instead of for the sake of creating and producing something, there is a switch in the energy so that you are freer to make mistakes. You are freer to do unconventional things. You're freer to open up your intuition to be able to do stuff that you feel inspired to do instead of what you think you must do to get the outcome that you're looking for. And it's funny. It's with experimenting, you get to use the spew method. And the spew method is like where you just brain dump and you just go with, no matter how crazy it is. It's kind of, it falls into lateral thinking and divergent thinking, where you look for unconventional stuff and things that you would have never considered if you were strictly trying to create for the purpose of producing and executing. So you spew forth, you experiment instead of trying to create and execute. And it's, if you can't remember any other way, choices over decisions. Okay. And then this one, and I've mentioned these last two before on other videos, but consider using Meta and MVP instead of the final version and perfect. And what I mean by that is that what you are going to do, especially when you're a completionist, you want to give yourself the bandwidth, if you will, to go for the MVP, the minimum viable product or the minimum viable process, progression, whatever that is for you to get this done. And you want to use Meta, and that is the most effective tactic available. This means that you're going to become highly adaptable. You're going to experiment, use choices instead of decisions. You're going to see things with fresh eyes, and you're going to do it blind and just go forth, not focusing on the beginning, just focusing on the doing. So guess what? Yes. Oh, I thank you so much for watching this, because the completionist is a new term for some, but it has always been around. It is that hired gun that you last resort, you need to get something done, but it's not something that is sequestered away from you. You can actually learn this. And I just need you to understand that. So, okay. I want to encourage you to try some of these things. If you say, I don't need that, that's not for me, just try it. Because I'm telling you, these are the people who are going to be highly sought after, or are starting to become highly sought after. And that is, I'm going to give you my little recap real quick. And then I want you to go out. I want you to do it. I want you to tell me what you did and, move forward. Okay. So the completionists, they are able to tighten the slack. They are able to suss out weaknesses. They are able to take unused or unprocessed potential and turn it into a useful outcome. To become a completionist, you want to make sure that you're writing down your thoughts so that you can evaluate areas where you might have confusion, where things are not well thought out. And writing is going to quickly make your lapse and your lacks of understanding, gaps in knowledge, quickly evaluate those so that you can see it. You also want to get into the habit of becoming a good project creator, manager, and executor. And then you want to use uncertainty so that you build up your skills as a completionist. And you do this by using your blind spots to take action. understand that if you keep going, you're going to bump into the truth and possibly a solution. And the next thing is you want to reverse engineer so that you can figure out the beginning. And you want to use fresh eyes to see new possibilities for doing things. You want to experiment instead of just create. And then you want to use minimum viable product and meta, most effective tactic available. All right, so guess what? My time is up. I thank you for yours. I want you to check the links in the description for how to support the channel if you want to get a one-on-one. I want you to the link is in the description. I want you to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and then I want you to go and watch this next video for your brilliant quest. This is Michelle, your big sis with Brilliant Quest. Bye.